So I had asked Igneshwar as to what he'd like me to talk about. So I've given him some list of talks I'd given earlier. So he said that there's one called Realign Your Destiny. So how does one do it? So before that, many of you all are seeing me for the first time. So who am I? So I'm a disciple of Sri Sathguru Swami Gnanananda Sarasvathi. Sathguru has been a householder, like most of you all are. Sathguru has had a thirst for spiritual enlightenment from her teens, but she followed a normal life. Later in her 20s and her 30s, it became stronger. So Sathguru began to do Parayanam of various writings from the Shastras as well as from the lives of the saints, Swami Vivekananda, Adi Shankara's works. She used to read it and she used to meditate. Since she had 5 children, she had to run the house herself. Then she used to get up earlier, finish her meditation, her Parayanam, and then find time for the usual work of being a householder. Later she took sannyasa and guided people. Most of the time Sathguru is lost in contemplation. Sometimes 2 years, 3 years she doesn't see anybody. Recently, for the past 10 years, she sees people every Sunday. Sathguru's teaching is of dynamic surrender. Sathguru expects us to surrender with every action. I am Sathguru's second disciple. First disciple is Vishnu Mohan, who's no more. So from my teens I have been serving Sathguru and learning from her. For a long period I remained doing a lot of meditation and not mixing much with people. Then later Sathguru said to do more active forms of service. As part of that, I go out and tell people about Sathguru's teaching, or my understanding of Sathguru's teaching, which is maybe quite different from what it really is. But Sathguru's teaching is basically about self-transformation, about transforming oneself. This is what Sri Krishna also said. He said a person who, engaging in prayer and all that, but there's no change in his life, he said is a mithyachari or a hypocrite. So Sathguru's teaching is something which Sathguru said very casually and which is most appropriate that I mention here, because it was said to Lata and Igneshwar. When they were leaving Chennai after seeing Sathguru, they came and told me, we are leaving now. So I said, what did Sathguru say? So they said, Sathguru said, just let God manage your life. So that is something which I recorded and we use it as a sort of, it is in Sathguru's teaching, is summarized in those 6 words. And that is also what the Gita says. In Gita, the 9th chapter, 22nd verse to the last verse of that chapter is summarized in those 6 words. Just let God manage your life. But to come back to what the subject was for today, what is our destiny? How does one realign it? Can one change one's destiny? Is destiny something which is fixed? All these things come to one's mind. This is my understanding of what Sathguru has taught me. And if anybody feels that it doesn't make sense, it doesn't seem right, then I request you all to ask me why it is. in that discussion maybe new truths may come and new understanding of Sadhguru's teaching may come. So what is destiny? What is karma? All these things we have to think about. Krishna himself in the Gita says that Kahana karmano gati. It's very mysterious. Karma is very mysterious. What is action? What is non-action? All these things one should know, but it's something which is very difficult to understand. Even the rishis don't understand it. So, unlike other religions, the idea of fate is not all-pervasive. The concept of Daiva, of Vidhi, all that is there in Hinduism. What is fated will happen, all that we see. But the basic thing is of karma, which is a very dynamic concept. It is not a fatalistic concept, it is not deterministic. It doesn't say that this is my fate, so I have to go through with it. This is my karma, so I have to go through it. That is, these are the actions which I have done. So that has created a situation in which we have to live. Dr. Radhakrishnan gives a very nice example. He says, karma is like the cards we get when we are playing. When we play cards, a hand is dealt to us. And we have to play with those cards. We can play well, we can play badly. We can play indifferently. We can look at the other man's cards also. All sorts of things we can do. Now, so the circumstances in which we live, the environment in which we live, all these things are determined by our karma. Now, karma is not, the Jains have a very nice idea of karma. They say it is something material, they say it is something which holds on to us. And so when we are born, we carry it along with us, which is quite sensible also, and which is similar to what we say. Though we don't say karma is material. And when we are born, we bring it with us. But it is not something which is determined by us. It is some, punya and papa are two types of shaktis which come to us. The world is all composed of energy, of shakti. And our actions are like a prism. Through that the energy comes to us. And that collects on us. So we are, see, most of us would have seen, they put a magnet, you put a paper over it, and sprinkled iron filings, the force field is seen in which it exists. Now if the magnet is broken or something, then the force field is slightly different. Or if it's electromagnetic, you switch off the current, then the force field disappears. So, our karma is what is clinging to us. We take it with us. When we go, we bring it with us. When we come, and it draws us to people, to circumstances which are most suitable for exertion of that karma. So a person who has to suffer, he draws to himself people who have also got to suffer. And see, a person who's got the karma to have cancer, we take that. He will draw to himself as family, people who have the karma to have someone who in the family who has got cancer. That all those are pulled to him like a magnet pulls the metal. So that's how it comes to. These are the circumstances, this is how circumstances in which we live are formed. That we pull it to us by our actions which we have done before. By the actions which we have done consciously or unconsciously earlier. It may not be conscious. So this is in where we live. The circumstances are in what we live. And the mind which we have is conditioned by the actions we have done earlier. So because of that, we think in a certain way, we like things, we dislike things. We can see even a child, a 6-month child has got a personality of its own. It has two children are different from each other. What this child likes, the other child won't like. Because they are carrying their own vasana, they are carrying their own tendencies with them when they come. That is the karma which they have, which is making them that way. Now, these things can be changed also. Our karmas can be changed, not in the sense that the basic circumstances in which we live can't be changed. See, then in this question, at this moment, we think of astrology. What does it say? Astrology says at this moment, when you are born, the planets are in this way. They are located here and there and everywhere. And they have certain influences on the personality of the person. Basically, that's what it is, and that's where his fate is seen in that. If the astrologer has read it correctly, this is not assuming the astrologer has read it correctly. Now they say pariharams. They say the pariharam you do this pariharam, you will get over it. Now, pariharam is basically, an astrologer has told me this, is like a stay order. When you do that pariharam, the operation of that dosha which you have, that sin which you have done, is in abeyance. It does not affect you. So you feel that because of the puja, everything is all right. Then after some time, then that action which you have done, which created that karma, which protects you at that moment from that dosha, that action's effect slowly dies away. Then you come back because the dosha is there. That dosha is there because of two things. Because you have done that action. And because you had that mindset to do that action. So that is why Krishna says in the Gita that there is nothing so purifying as knowledge. Gnanananda is the most purifying fire. So all karma can be destroyed through jnana, he says. So what happens is that when you go to that temple, when you do that puja and you get that benefit, at that time one must have two things. One is the knowledge that it is our karma which has caused this problem. We have done something, that's why it's happened. And we must have this strong determination that we will not do that wrong action which brought us the problem. These three things must be there. Once we have the strong feeling that we will not do that wrong action again, that translates itself into a mental tendency. So, just like a child, once it burns itself, doesn't go near the fire. Similarly, that action in our mind causes us, that action which came in our mind and translated into action gave us trouble. So that thought association comes in our mind that if we have the jnanam, we are assuming that we have the jnanam, that we are able to link it together. We made this wrong action, and so therefore we are suffering. Once that mental connect comes, then we are less inclined to do it. So there are two levels in this. One is the person of strong determination. Once he feels that this is wrong, this gave me difficulty, then he will not do it again. That's about 10% in the world. People with such strong wills will not do it again. 90% of us, we know we should not have done it, but we feel at that time, why did we do it? We shouldn't do it again. And later when the circumstances come, we will do it again. That's why Krishna is asked by Arjuna, he says, what is it that makes people do wrong against their will, he says. Anicca, he used that word, against their will. As though they are forced to do wrong. What is it? So this is, what happens is that when one's, what Sathguru calls a lower nature, fights a higher nature and wins. We want to do something, so desire, the associations of the mind of that action with satisfaction, with pleasure, those associations, they come above the jnana side of the person. It's called the sattvika side. Sattva is clarity of mind, reason, all these things. So these things, this rajas and this tamas, this the quality of darkness and ignorance, and the quality of action and that's one action, thoughtless action. Rajas is thoughtless action. We want to do something. So Rajas is thoughtless action and can be influenced either by sattva, which is intellectual and reasoning, the guna, which is influenced by only intellectual thought and reasoning. We do things because we understand that it is the right thing to do. Rajas, we do things because we want to do it. It's impulse. Tamas is, we can't be bothered. So we do take the easiest, shortest route. Or we do it because it makes things difficult for the next man. So the circumstances in which we are what? Are generally unchanging. It doesn't, because of our karma and because of the level of our knowledge. So that's why sometimes you find a person has a difficult marriage, then it gets dissolved, then the next marriage again, and then the third marriage again. We see that happening. I've seen that personally many times. That is, one is the nature of the person. The mistakes in the first marriage. See, there's no consciousness that we can do mistakes. Most of us, if I were to ask a person, what have you done in the last 3 weeks? They'll remember the good things they've done. They'll remember wrong things they've done because they are not responsible for. Circumstances made them do it, somebody else made them do it. But the mistakes they have done, they are rarely conscious of it. They forget it. Because the mind doesn't want to see it. They forget it. We are not conscious of what the wrong that we do, but we are conscious of the good we've done. Partly because we don't want to see those things. Partly because, the good reason is that we want to go above. So our concentration is on good things, unconscious. How many minutes are there?
20.
Move to now 25 minutes?
Yeah.
So I was saying about this person with 3 marriages, all of which were unsuccessful. That is because of 2 things. One is the karma for a good marriage is not there. So what happens? It drew to her her husband who was violent. So what is normally we say to say, everybody wants to beat her. That's what we feel. Why would her husband want to beat her? How is it? Something wrong with her. That's what we feel. But what happens is that in her case there was this karma for a violent husband. She did not understand that knowledge, have that knowledge that is due to her karma. And then there would be two things. One is that when she went into a marriage, one is that she could have avoided the idea of marriage. The other was when she went into the marriage, instead of assuming that it is going to be all, a path of roses or bed of roses, a knowledge that it is going to be difficult in life, that life is always sunshine and rain. And prepare for the rain instead of preparing. So she went every time, this one is going to be good. And then when we told her also this person is difficult, no, I can manage him. He is not like what you say. He's a very nice person. These are the things which she said every time. I've been knowing her from the time she was 10. And so each of the marriages I was consulted about. So what is her nature? To find a person, always her nature, her karma drew her to a person who was dominating. And she, because of her ajnana, she could not use her jnanam to see the person's nature. She was assuming that everything is going to be fun, everything is going to be good, everything is going to be nice. I'll get married and be like everybody else. Everybody else has goes through sun and rain, that you don't think. Yes, everything is going to be nice. Then what did she do? She fell out of the husband. It's going to be a wonderful marriage. Her nature has taken her to a dominating person, a good person. He dominated her, he treated her badly, he was violent. Then, okay, come out of this, the next one is going to be lucky. I can't be single, I have to get married. Very clear. Then, now she's found somebody else who's with a similar nature. The karma is drawing her to it. So, how does one come out of such a situation? How does a person come out of such a situation? One is to have the knowledge that there is going to be difficulties in my life. So either you prepare for it, she could prepare for it, that the husband is going to be a difficult man. She just joined him now. He's a difficult man. Already emails and telephone calls, he's a difficult man. So either she can say, he's a difficult man, I will live with that, ignore that and look at the good points. And base my happiness on something outside the marriage. That I am living here for God. I am living in these circumstances for God. Then, if your happiness is not dependent on somebody else, then she can be happy if she's going to do that. Otherwise, what could she do? She could give up the idea of marriage and be happy. That she is not prepared to. Third is change the other man, which is unlikely. People are not going to change just because someone else wants them to. So what does Sathguru say? Sathguru says that one changes one's mindset. One lives with other people, one looks at their good points, prepares for their bad points. You don't say that there are no bad points, prepare for the bad points. And adjust when you can, stand up when you can, and live with it. So one lady told Sathguru, I am not a housewife. I am a house slave. I have to sweep, wipe, look after the house, and that's all I do here. So Sathguru said, why are you expecting things from people? When you are doing your actions, you do your work. If you are sweeping the house, don't sweep it for the family. Don't sweep it thinking it's my house. Sweep it for Krishna. You are looking after this house because Krishna has kept you here. you are looking after these children because Krishna gave them to you. You are living with your husband because Krishna brought you up here. So then the concentration, the focus changes. Now we live in a world, multipolar world. So many relationships. Everybody we see around us. And we expect everything from everybody. What they expect from us, some of us who are more balanced, we understand that people have expectations of us. And we try to fulfill the expectations or tell them to take out. Other people, they just see themselves. The world is for me. So I will bring everybody around to my way of thinking. They have to live for me. But this is not a multipolar world. All we need to have is a bipolar relationship. Krishna on one side, you on the other side. Krishna has put us in these circumstances. Krishna has given us this child. It's all through God. The world is not something which is brought upon to you by your actions. The main thing is, why do we have difficulties? It's because we think that it is because of us. Krishna says, nature does everything. The gunas do everything. But the person who is deluded by the sense of I, aham, when he thinks that he is doing it, when he thinks it is because of him that is happening, then he is a fool. It's a person who's deluded. It's a deluded person who thinks he is doing it. Let's take a small thing. People go to work. A man is going to work. He's proud of the fact that every day, before the office he opens, he's the first man. So just think how many things contribute to that going to the office. He has to get up correctly in the morning. He mustn't oversleep. Alarm must ring. There must be water. There must be current so that there will be water. There must be water to bathe. There must be food to eat. Then he has to go to work. If he is taking a bus, the bus has to come on time. If he is not taking a bus, he is driving himself. There must be no traffic jam. There must be no unpleasant policeman stopping him on the way. So many things. So for a person to reach his office on time, there are so many factors. And he thinks he did it. And he thinks that because of my effort, I have gone to the office. So how does our fate, what is our fate? Our fate can be either to be happy, see this ishtam, anishtam, nishtam. This is what the fruit of actions. But what is it? What it is going to be is in our hands. The result of our actions will be one of these three. But how we are going to be is in our hands. Are we going to be, if we are going to be driven by expectations, driven by feelings that we should decide other people's lives, we should have, our children must be like this, they must be successful, they must be loyal, they must. It's a simple thing. One man said that my daughter gets married, she and her husband will come and stay with me. Why? He wants that. He wants the daughter to be with him. He wants the son-in-law to be with him. He wants to play with the grandchildren. All these things he wants. The daughter may want to go somewhere else. And what happens to all his plans? Everything goes. So his happiness goes. Because all he planned for, he built there. I remember one person telling me he had gone back home after he had made an enormous amount of money, gone back home and bought the family house. It was a huge house, like a palace. And he walked me around all the whole house, all the carved doors, all the curios. It was worth a fortune. Everything is here, he said, but nobody to stay in the house. My children want to stay abroad. There's nobody in the house. I thought we'll all be together. What's happened? Then Sathguru told him there's still something more for you to do here in this place. Then he remembered there's an old family Ayyappan temple which belonged to his family. He said, are you talking about this temple? Sathguru said, yes. Then he hired a boat and took us across there to where the temple was. When he saw the temple, he started crying. He remembered his childhood, how he used to go to a temple, how easy life was then and for him, and now he's full of disappointment. Why? Because he put his happiness in somebody else's hands. So our destiny, whether to be happy or unhappy, if it is going to be dependent, now as far as most people are concerned, it's dependent on circumstances. It's not dependent on them. They are not deciding whether they are happy or not. Other people are deciding for them whether they are going to be happy or not. So, how do we decide that? How do we strengthen ourselves not to get disappointed? How is it that circumstances are not going to make us happy, unhappy? How is it that we are going to, how are we going to come out of this net which is all around us, holding us tight? Is by realigning our mindset. When we realign our mindset, away from the world, away from hopes. See, there are 5 afflictions. Patanjali Rishi says there are 5 afflictions which we have. Raga, Dvesha. So he says first, Avidya, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha, Abhinivesha. Avidya is the basis on which we run our lives. We think we are somebody. We think that somebody belongs to us. We assume because of that a whole lot of things. So we come out of that avidya. The next thing is the asmita, the feeling of I am X. But am I only that person? I am not only that person. I am somebody's son. I am somebody's grandson. I belong to this community. All these people are connected with me. All those people are hostile to me. All this we see things in terms of myself plus the world. Asmita is not me only. Asmita is myself plus the world. All these things contribute to making up my personality. My personality is not the child which I was when I was 5 years old, simple. With a whole lot of Purva Janma karma, a whole lot of tendencies, but a much more simpler person than what it was now. Now so many influences have come upon me. So many ideas have come upon me. So many wishes are there. So many desires are there. Aims are there. And each one is a time bomb. Each one of these feelings is a time bomb waiting to burst and give us unhappiness. Inside the time bomb is unhappiness. So what we do is, we keep all these things. We don't throw away our aims. We don't throw away our objectives. We don't throw away our relationships. But we transmute it. Just like they say, the philosopher's stone can transmute anything into gold. Our relationship with God, having not a relationship with each person, having not a relationship with each idea, but having a relationship with God. Just me and God. Other people don't matter. Other things don't matter. Inasmuch as they are part of God's plan, for me they matter. So when I am doing this work, I am doing it because God has put me in a certain circumstance to do it. That Shivananda, I remember, he had written, if you are able to take up the work, and it's happening, and it's happening well, and you are able to walk away from it because your Guru has said it, then you have really succeeded. Because you have put everything into it and it's doing well. It's not as though it's doing badly, it's going well. Everything is going well, things are growing, and everything is, yielding fruit. To walk away at that time because your Guru has said it, not because, not the feeling that everything is fine, so now I started everything up, so I'm giving it to somebody else. It's not like creating a startup company and you sell it and then you go and start a new one. It's not that. You did it because you were told to do it. You do it and then you don't even look back. This is the only way we can realign. Our destiny can be happy, it can be unhappy. That's in our hands. What is going to happen to us? What is going to be our last moments? I'm not talking about physical last moments, whether we are going to be on the ventilator when we go, whether we are going to die in our sleep. All those things are not in our hands. But those last days, how we are going to be? How is our mind going to be when we are on that ventilator? How are we going to go to sleep for the last time? That is in our hands. That we can decide. How we are going to be at that moment. And in that is our happiness. In that is our sorrow. And everything is dependent on how we keep our minds. So, these 5 afflictions, asmita, then raga, dvesha. We are crucified on these 2 things, raga and dvesha. Some things we like, some things we don't like. Because of that decides our whole lives. We don't like this, we don't want that. That is something which is good, that is something. And it's not as though those things are good or bad in themselves. It is my experience of them. It's like, I remember when I was 5 years old, my parents took me to visit a friend who was staying 40 kilometers away. So in those days I used to be car sick at the slightest, so I used to vomit all the way and spoiled the journey for everybody else. And when I went there, I was feeling horrible. And the lady of the house, she gave me sarsaparilla to drink and made me sit under the fan. There was a blue table fan and made me sit under the fan and rest. So after that, for the next 10 years, I could not stand a blue table fan. I could not stand sarsaparilla. Even now I find it difficult to drink sarsaparilla juice. Because in my mind it's associated with that terrible afternoon when we drove there from Salem to Tirupati. So it is not that sarsaparilla is a bad thing or blue table fans are bad, but I don't like them. Why? Because my experience was at that time my mental state was unhappy, so I imposed it upon the blue table fan and the sarsaparilla juice. Similarly, liking also, we like something because at that moment we were happy when we had it. The thing in itself has no nature. Our feelings come because of what our mindset is at that point. And the last, abhinivesha, clinging. Normally, it's always translated as clinging to life. We want life. But it's not only that. It's clinging to life as we know it. It's clinging to life as we know it. Because something else is something which is difficult to understand. That's why many people don't like Advaita Vedanta. They say dissolution of personality is a terrible thing. Then what's it? It's because they want to control you. That's why the Guru tells you to dissolve your personality. It's because it's something which we can't understand. So it is something in which we may not exist as we know ourselves. Sometimes this abhinivesha takes different ways. A person who settled in his life, he doesn't want to take a transfer to a new place because the opportunities may be better. Everything may be better, but he doesn't want. This is the world I know, I don't want to change it. Then, I recently met one lady. She was very remarkable. Because she was torn by 2 types of abhinivesha. One side, her son was urging her to get married. There was a person who was interested in her and she liked him also. She decided to. On the other hand, I am a successful woman here, I am doing very well. If I get married, I lose my independence. What happens to my life? I am used to telling people what to do. And if I tell him what to do and he listens to me, I won't respect him. It's so many things. I said, why don't you get married then? No, if I get married to him, he may dominate me. Then that is difficult for me. If I get married to him and he listens to me, I won't respect him. Basically, she's afraid of what's going to happen. What is going to be, the future is unknown to me. So therefore, she's still not decided. It's 1 year since I met her. She's still not decided whether to marry or not to marry. She calls and tells him, yes, I'll marry you. Then she says, I won't marry you. And there's fights going on over the telephone. And she said, I won't come and see Swamiji again because he'll tell me what to do. That's the worst situation. I lose my independence. If I go and see him, he may tell me what to do, so I won't go. So this is Abhinimesha, clinging to life as we know it. We see the world, we want the world to be as it is. We want an improvement, but we don't know how to do it. But ultimately it comes also when there are last moments, we are afraid about what's going to happen after we go. So all this is what is making our lives difficult. So we move out of this by understanding our relationship is with God. So this is in this, the 4th chapter of Gita, he tells Arjuna, you and me have been through so many janmas. I remember them, you don't remember them. Because he knows, his knowledge is, Krishna's knowledge is of the world, what it is, and why he is here. His divine purpose he knows. Arjuna has also a purpose. He also has to fight, he has to do his duty, all that he is there. But he does not know that purpose. So because of that he is unhappy. So for ourselves, see what is Arjuna's destiny? To go through his life, fight. Maybe he has to lose his children, maybe he doesn't have to lose his children. Try and keep the dynasty on the throne. Try and ensure good succession is there. The praja, the people are happy. All these things are what his destiny normally would be. What Krishna said is, use this as a stepping stone to lifting yourself up. And then you come to me. You come to me when you are freed. Otherwise you stay where you are. Otherwise you stay where you are. You come to me when you have left all the baggage. That we carry. We can't carry any, that's one place where we don't have any baggage. We can't carry anything with us. We have to go both hands empty if we are going to God. But if we are going to carry all these things with us, then there's no place there. Because He Himself is going to fill you. And whereas your mind is filled with yourself, then God can't come. So we have to empty ourselves, all these things. So Arjuna's destiny, if he is going to be a successful king, yes, he should carry all these ideas that he is a king, he must not fight this person, he must fight this person. All these things are fine for him. But if Arjuna wants to transcend that, then he has to align himself with Krishna's feet. He is doing all this. What does Krishna say? It comes again and again. He says, regard me, Matpara comes. Very often you find it about that. Regarding me as most important. That's all. He doesn't say, don't be in the world. He says, regard me as most important. So other things are a stepping stone to reaching God. So if we have that, then our destinies are, our minds are not aligned to the world, but aligned to God. There are no disappointments there. There are no disappointments there. The disappointments are only on people who are changing, who are changeable. circumstances which change. If we are going to be having our minds connected with something which is permanent, then we are not. Right, other things are based on our perceptions. So, the contacts between the senses and the sense objects, between the mind and its objects, are all liable to be wrong, all liable to be influenced by our ideas. So, we leave them aside. When we leave them things aside, then we are able to see the things as they are. We deal with people much more easily. Once I sent for a person, I tell them, come and see me. And I was there, all other devotees were somewhere else. Then I felt, why is he not come and seen me? So after 1.5 hours since I sent for him, he's not come to see me. I was wondering what happened. He doesn't want to see me, or is it that the work which I have given him, his previous work is not finished, that's why he's not come to see me. Like that, a whole lot of possibilities went through my mind. Then he came and saw me. Nothing happened. His car had broken down, so he couldn't come. By the time, all these conjectures in my mind, he's not finished his work, that's why he's feeling bad to see me. He doesn't want any further work, that's why he's not come to see me. All these thoughts came in my mind. But the reality is simple. So I was carrying all this baggage in my mind unnecessarily. While if I had just thought, I asked him to see me to do God's work. And he's not yet come because God doesn't want him to come now. Maybe some other reasons there. If I am going to hold that burden in my hand, it's going to be heavy. My hands are going to pain. If I leave it at God's feet, then he'll carry it. His hands don't pain. He's got 4 hands, I got only 2. So, what does Krishna say? Offer all your actions to God. Simple. Just what Sathguru said, just let God manage your life. Do everything as an offering to me, he says. He said, whatever you do, whatever you eat, everything you align it to God. That is something which personally I have found very useful. When a person is having some difficulties, when one tells them to do a naivedyam and offer it to God and then eat it, that prasadam transforms them. That particular prasadam, according to their karma, one with God's grace knows and one tells them, and then they transform them. They don't go to a temple and do it, they just make it, pray and then eat it, that's all. That's a tremendous effect. So everything is based on faith, and the faith that God is there. So he says, you offer it to me with faith. He says, whatever is offered with devotion, even if it's a leaf, I accept it. But there was one lady related to me. She said, why do we have to take all these flowers in order to a temple? Why do we have to, see, there's a competition in the temple, who's going to put more money? I don't get into a competition, I don't put anything in the tray. God said if a leaf is enough, He makes it, that makes Him happy. So I said, if people are going to be like you, there's going to be only leaves in the temple. You're not going to be anything else. So he says, but the prime thing is that your faith and your love is there for Him. And if your circumstances don't allow you, you offer whatever you have to. That's what he said. But whatever you do, all your actions you have to also offer. It's not that, it's only that you don't want to offer. You won't offer only leaves. Offer whatever you do as an action to Him. So then prayers, when you sit down and pray, you think this is for God and you eat. I'm going to ask Him for a whole lot of things. But I'm praying to Him to give me surrender, that I should accept what He's going to give me. And then you sit and pray. And then you ask Him for whatever you want. Then He gives you what is good for you. And you're able to manage if He doesn't give you the things which you don't want. Whatever you do it as offering to me, he says. And then he gives in the next line, he gives the explanation. The fruits of it, whether it's good or bad, you are freed from that by the sannyasa yoga. See, Upanishads also they talk about sannyasa yoga, and they say there's no sannyasa in the Veda and all that. That's not very right. Sannyasins were there, but they were in the background. The Hindu religion has always been run by householders. Oh, you see, all the great madas, the administrators have been householders. The only exception is the Ramashramat, which is run by sannyasins. But otherwise, all the great madas are run by householders. Because only then the sannyasins will think about God. Otherwise, the sannyasins think about the revenue of the ashram. So, we don't come back to this. He says, through this sannyasa yoga, this way of renouncing the fruits, you will be freed and you will come to me. So the goal is merging with Krishna. In that there is no loss of personality. There is only a flowering of personality. A person who has reached Krishna has many of the same mannerisms, the ways of being which were there when they were not enlightened. But the good things are heightened, the bad things don't exist anymore. So on the face of it, the jnani continues to be the same, but is a much more powerful and much more attractive person. So this is the way one realigns one's destiny. One can't realign one's circumstances. But where we are going, how we are going there, that is in our hands. That we can do easily. There is no great tapas involved. There is no great rituals involved. But it needs painstaking perseverance. It means that you must constantly be looking at yourself. Constant awareness of yourself. Why am I doing this? What do I do? What does Sathguru say? It's a very simple thing Sathguru says. Every night, before you go to bed, meditate for a little while, think about God for a little while, and then review your day. What have you done in the day? What are the good things you've done? What are the bad things you've done? And ask yourself why you did the bad things. And then what we must do is take the good things and try to do it again. So the next morning when you get up, you pray that help me. And I did these things and have the awareness that I must try not to do these things today. Mistakes I did yesterday. So what happens is that it has a lot of effects of it lasting in the night. Because when we go to sleep, in our subconscious mind, the idea is there that these things are good, these things are bad. That creates a tendency in us. So it's easier to do the good things later. And see, Uddhava asks Sri Krishna, what about people who want to be good but then they do bad? So Krishna says, if you are going to do the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. But do it with the consciousness that this is something which is not good for me. Do it with the consciousness this is not good for me. I am doing it, but I should not be doing it. I wish I wasn't doing it. Two results from that. One is the joy of doing wrong comes down. Because that knowledge that is not the best thing to do. Secondly, is it creates a mental block. See, everything is done by self-interest for us. What naturally, our nature is, if there's water there, we are careful when we water. We shouldn't sleep. This is not done consciously, unconsciously we do it. So nature is to look after ourselves. So when this link comes in the mind, this is something which is harmful to me. This is something which will not bring me good. Then our nature will see that we move away from it. So slowly we get detached from it. But that condemnation must be there in the mind that this is a wrong thing. We have done this and it's a wrong thing. But if we are saying we are doing this wrong thing, but we are offering it to Krishna, then it's not going to go away. Because there is no feeling that's a wrong thing in our mind. A wrong action is not a wrong action. Because we are justifying it in our mind that we offered it to Krishna. So our actions will decide what we are going to do. And more than our actions, the way we do it, the mindset with which we do it, that decides where we are going. So our destiny may be to have difficulties if we are going to look at it in the way of saying that's a predestined, determined circumstance. We may have a difficulty. But we can be happy where we are. Vidura was a government official only. He was a government official serving government. But he was much happier than the Dhritarashtra in the palace. He accepted his circumstance and he lived there, doing the best he could for people and doing it as an offering to God. So, two brothers born of the same father, two different lives. He is a king with all that power in his hands. Here it's a person born in a family not very respected, in a community not very respected, and at the beck and call of the elder brother, having to serve him and his sons. But a happy man because of it. So this is what Sathguru says, just let God manage your life. It's the easiest thing. The thought of God manages our lives. The thought that we do our actions, we don't leave the circumstances we are. We are happy where we are. We are unhappy where we are according to what we want to be. But we align ourselves to God, let the thought of God decide what we are going to do. Then we have much more freedom. See, I told you that I have been going out now and talking about Sathguru. The consciousness that I could do it was not there with me. I didn't have it. I am born with a congenital heart problem. I didn't know that also. Normally with God's grace, because of God's grace only I didn't know it. Normally with this problem you cannot live beyond 5 years. You know that? And those days there was no scans, nothing in the 60s. Recently I was talking with one Dr. Ramachandran. He's a very prominent person in Cochin and he's a person, very big doctor, I don't know where he was. And also now he's studying Indian schools of medicine and Vedanta and a whole lot of things. Very well-learned man. So I told him I got this problem. He said, how old are you? I said, I'm 50. Recently, then I was 50. Then I said, I'm 50. No, there's something wrong. This is a misdiagnosis. You cannot be having this problem. You cannot have. You will not cross 7 years. Then I told him it's like this, it's like that. Then he looked down and he said, the Guruvayurappan Dhanyana, this is Guruvayurappan only. Because you cannot live beyond 7 years with this problem. In your circumstances, doing so much of physical work, you could not have gone beyond 7 years. And if you are living without surgery now, it's only because of God's grace, he said. So what happened was that when I was 46, they started giving me problems. And I thought it was just imaginary and all at first. Then after that, they diagnosed it. So when they diagnosed it, they told me that it's necessary to operate. And many doctors want to operate because it's a rare case. They said, come there, we won't charge you, we'll operate there. President of the American Heart Association sent word, let him come here, we'll not charge him, but we want to. So, then we decided to operate here itself in Chennai. At that time, Sathguru said, you also do pranayama. I said, shall I do pranayama? A friend of mine suggested pranayama. Sathguru said, also do pranayama. So it was remarkable that the cardiac pressure was lower than it would normally have been. That also was because we have a tradition in our family that child is surrendered to Guru Ayappan as an adimai. So I always say that he looked after the vayu inside here, that's why there's no pressure, cardiac pressure. So, but I still had difficulty breathing, I had all sorts of problems, palpitations. So I went to learn pranayama. So when I was going there, the sub-master taught me, then after he gave me one of his disciples, and that person was making me into the pranayama, and he told me, recite Om 60 times. So I was reciting Om 60 times and sitting there, and the master came. This was இவர் ஏன் உட்காந்து ஓம் சொல்லியிருக்கார்? இல்லை, அவர் ரொம்ப ரெஸ்ட்லெஸ்ஸாக இருக்கார். இங்கே உட்காந்தா கூட, even if he's sitting here, his mind is in the ashram there, he's not able to relax. He's worrying about the ashram. So I thought of it. And so in the night when I was doing self-analysis, Sathguru said, this is the cause of it. The vayu being higher is caused it. According to pranayama, the Yogacharya, vayu was raised, so that's why this is happening. So the vayu was raised because of that, he said. So I thought, maybe in all things also, I have a tendency to expect things to happen immediately. When a computer stops working, then I keep calling the mechanic until he reaches the door. So maybe that is why this has happened. That's why. So then I consciously started looking at myself. Where is it that I am impatient? Where is it that I am, in a hurry, impulsive? I started all the rajas part of my nature, I brought it down. And also I prayed to Lakshmi Narasimha. So I continue praying to Lakshmi Narasimha also to make me able to see myself. I was not able to see myself. The Yogacharya had to say this fellow is restless. So I didn't know that. So when I saw that, and I looked at myself regularly, constant awareness of this. So I constantly kept checking. Now am I offering to God? Am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Kept on looking at myself with suspicion. Why am I doing this? I looking at myself with suspicion. When I did that, things became much better. When I went to see the Yogacharya, I said, I'm going next week for my operation, and then I'll come back here and then I want you to teach me this and that. He said, "Ungalukku thevai irukadu," he said. He said that your vayu has come down, it's much more quieter. Anyhow, they received wisdom, everything, all the doctors said, you operate. So then they went there, and before the operation they did an angiogram. So when they did the angiogram, the physician said, the best thing is to operate. So that's the way of settling the problem. But you don't need an operation. You don't need an operation because his pressure is low and things are quite different from when I saw you then. You don't need an operation. So I came out of the hospital and I'm managing with God's grace because I'm looking at myself. Even now when I'm talking with you, I'm looking at myself and saying, am I saying the correct thing to them? Am I? It's this constant self-introspection, this awareness of oneself, that takes us a long way. And this, asking oneself in the night before going to sleep, what have I done? That shows the seeds of that awareness which will come the next day. So what I'm telling you is what I have done and what I have received a lot of benefit from. It is possible to realign one's destiny. Karma we can't change, but we can, with knowledge, we can remove the effects of certain karmas in our lives. Shri Sathguru Arpanamastu, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Is there anything which anybody wants to ask me about what I've been talking for so long about?
The other night you said we have to see what are the actions we have done and which is good, which is bad. But I have done all these things. But how to discriminate between what is good, what is bad, the actions we
When you
have.
think about the action, there are two things which will tell us. One is, has it hurt somebody else? Has it hurt yourself?
But if I scolded my daughter, it is for a purpose, no? So I don't know whether it is good or not.
that is a very nice thing. So you asked a very, when you scolded your daughter, why did you scold your daughter? Is it because she did something wrong? Were you upset about something else and that's why you scolded her extra? Would you have scolded her the same if you were in a good mood? Were you in a bad mood and you scolded your daughter? In a good mood and you scolded your daughter. And if you were scolding her, were there any other inputs into the action? Any other causes for the action? Were you generally angry, so that's why you came in there, you saw her doing something wrong, you made it worse? Or is it that you scolded your daughter because you've been telling her not to do it and she's not done it? So the causes, you must look at the causes.
Excuse me, you always think you're scolding because you want to teach them the right thing, right?
Yes, yes.
So how will you say
That is that Asmita, we think of ourselves as a good parent.
Wanting to be a good parent.
Yeah.
Whatever they call themselves, wanting to be a good parent, and you want to teach the person the right thing.
Okay. Correcting the child is good. The way of correction, and the causes for the correction. Was it that sometimes when the child does something, you say, okay, it's a waste of time telling, let it be, next time I'll tell. Sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes we tell the child, because we are generally tense with circumstances. We are angry with somebody else. Very common thing we see. The mother-in-law gives trouble to daughter-in-law, daughter-in-law beats the child. It's very common.
Mind is so clever that it always justifies your actions.
Yes.
That
You have to be aware of it, because the mind is going to play tricks with you. So you have to check and see whether it is saying the truth or not.
So it is your
See, the
vasana.
same reaction doesn't work in connection with maybe another person's child or something. It's always with, your child.
Yeah.
So with the other person's child, unless it's doing some harm in your house, you're not really concerned. You leave it to the other parent to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But in our case, we believe that it's our duty, our right to handle it.
That is the Sattvic way of doing it, because we think that it's the right thing to do and we
but
do it.
Some people have probably a very calm way of telling a child. Some people probably, I put myself in the second category, you sort of say it with a lot of anger or passion or fear, whatever.
See, there's also one more thing, that one has corrected the child. You expect the child to make the same mistake and you're watching, is she going to do it, is she going to do it, and then you tell her not to do it. I remember I had a nephew who had this habit of running, even when he was, it was very annoying, because I was like an old man, because I'm staying in the ashram, no disturbance, so I was like an old man, so when a child runs, old people get annoyed, so I was like that. So the child ran, I told him not to. Then the next time, when he was about to run, my elder brother Vishnu Mohan was there. He said, don't say anything, it's very obvious. You are looking and waiting for him to run to correct him. So, why are we doing it? We are doing it, but why are we doing it? So that also we have to see. So awareness is not only awareness of our actions, but the causes of the actions also.
Even if you're correcting somebody and the other person is hurt,
Mm.
does it mean your action of correcting is wrong?
Not necessarily. The reason why you are doing it, that is most important.
Maybe our own fears,
Hmm?
our own fears.
Partly our own fears may be the cause of it, but generally if you're doing it for the sake of the other person, then that doesn't leave any residue of karma. Because it's my duty to tell them not to do it.
With the same person, like a husband or a wife, whichever, 20 years of marriage, 30 years, you're not what you were at 20. You've changed when you're 40, you've changed when you're 50. So with the same person, you are constantly, either way, I'm not talking about one person, you're constantly making changes in your life. So in which way would any action be bad or any action be good? Maybe when you was 20, that particular action was correct. Maybe at 40, the same action may be wrong.
Yes.
Maybe at 20, as a woman or a man, you're much younger. Maybe you can overlook mistakes. When you're older, maybe you can't overlook the mistakes, and that experience should have taught you. So the same person, your
It's
life
necessary to talk with that person and explain to him that what's appropriate then is not going to be appropriate now. When you were 20, if your husband annoyed you and he came with chocolates or flowers, you overlooked it. But now if he brings you chocolates and flowers, you tell him to keep it. You tell him that, no, I want you to change, you tell him. So the way you say to him is what matters. See, monks living together in the same ashram can't stand each other after that. Basically just the circumstances after some time grates on us. Same thing grates on us. Why do they have to say it the same way? See, a person in hospital, a nutritionist comes in the morning, good morning, what would you have today? After 3 days, so why does she have to say it the same way every time? I got a headache, why does she have to be so cheery, so getting on my nerves. So thoughtfulness, that is something which is very lacking now. You don't think of the other person. Life is difficult, so therefore we find it difficult to think about the other person. But life will become much less difficult if we think about the other person.
Would it mean that you're compromising on yourself if you're constantly thinking about another person?
No, you're just looking at it from their point of view, that's all. You're increasing your knowledge. Why people act. You're understanding why people act. Compromise is when you give up your principles, you give up your rights for nothing in return. You give up your rights and then they start walking all over you. Just a disservice to the other person.
I just wanted to know, is your character determined by your vasanas or your karma? I mean, the character, your personality.
See, your action decides the vasanas. Your karmas, what you have done, that decides your vasanas, your tendencies. So because of that, that brings you in a set of circumstances, which will make, because of those tendencies which you have, which are created by those actions earlier, you will react to, it will make you do the same thing again. You have to pull yourself out of it.
So with prayer and your vasanas get curbed, or is it your karma that
See, what happens with prayer is that you get a lot of calm, you get a lot of strength to your personality. But you have to look after that. What are you going to do? After that, what are you going to do with that? You get power in your hands, what are you going to do with that? It's going to just... Sometimes you see people who have got immense spiritual power, but they still get angry, they're still difficult. Because they've done that prayer, they've thought of it, but there's no application of jnana in their lives. There's prayer, there's devotion, but they get angry, they get difficult.
So that would be a climb down? Every time it would be a climb down, or
No,
it's just a part of
it's a parallel development. One side, he develops himself by getting grace, strength, concentration. The other side, he is not a better person because he has not made any efforts to become a better person. He doesn't understand that he is not a, there's a good deal to it.
Can silence be the best thing for when you get disturbed? Silence is the best prayer for everything?
Not necessarily, because if you're going to be silent and boiling inside, then it's better that you express yourself.
So we need to let it out.
You need to let it out. Nothing else, write a letter to God. You know, not only go and say it to the puja, write a letter to God and then tear it up. Because you've relieved your feeling. Recently, that's what I was saying in a talk recently. This is a means of getting rid of your feelings, and then after that you say, all this has happened, and I am moving forward with God's grace, and I am detaching myself from what happened. See, there was this lady with a terrible husband. Terrible in the sense, he drank and he used to shout, and he had a harsh tongue. Without drinking, she had a harsh tongue. And she was quite unpleasant also. So there's constant fights between them. And so she came and spoke with me about that, and I said, you do one thing. Sathguru always talks about a grievance book in our heart. So I said, you write a grievance book, write all the complaints about your husband. You buy a big book and write it, and you bring it to me. So 2 days later, she comes, the book is complete, I brought it to you. So what my intention was, I tell her, you take it, burn it, throw it out, and with that, forget about all what has happened. But before I said that, she said, can I start on a second book? There's still so much to write about it. The purpose is not seen, that you have to get rid of it. She said, can I start a second book? So silence is when you understand how things are and withdraw from it. But sometimes, yes, in a difficult situation, it's better to remain quiet. You should see the pros and cons of it. Sometimes being silent is assume that you are, agreeing to things. Something which is wrong. That you have to, show that you are. I don't agree with you, but I'm not saying anything for you. But that's okay,
A lot of times we react impulsively to things, right? And then you might regret it after a while. But the minute reaction, immediate reaction, be it anger or that happens. So how do you? It's very difficult to stop it impulse at that moment. You know it's wrong, later. But how do you is there any way, methods in which we can start working on that?
One is prayer.
Yes.
By understanding and telling God, see, I've done this, I shouldn't have done that. Second is to remember that the effects of what we've done. You have got angry and you said something that's hurt the other person and he's keeping away from you. So you tell yourself, that because I did this, I lost. And keep a watch on yourself. When you see those, what's beginning to boil, immediately put off the stuff. Immediately put off the stuff. See that it doesn't get worse. Again, all that is hard work. You have to keep looking at yourself all the time. But after some time, the view will become good. It will be very nice to see. Anything else? Any other question? If you all can sing Bangalore.